Altcoins like XRP and Cardano don't look like scams on the surface because they're not robbing you blindly of your hard-earned money, but they're actually doing it in secret. Altcoins like this offer a lot of community and a lot of hype, but where did all of the substance go? In this video, I'm going to explain to you why you're better off selling altcoins like XRP and Cardano before you fall into the same trap that 67% of crypto investors fall into. I'm almost 100% sure that you've never heard any of the information I'm about to give you in this video, so let's get into it. Now, this is a site called vidIQ, and if you're not a YouTuber, you probably don't know what this site even is or what it means, but it's allowing you to search key terms that drive a lot of search volume and different competition, different traffic. So when you type in XRP here, I wanted to show you something very interesting. When you click the search volume tab, and it shows you a lot of the words under the most used terms as far as crypto goes. You can see Bitcoin here, crypto, XRP. You can see that XRP has over 2.1 million searches per month on the YouTube platform. It even has more search volume than Bitcoin itself, crypto itself, and even Cardano, which is another altcoin that is actually a part of this video. So then you start to question and ask yourself, okay, why are people buying XRP? Why are people so hyped over Cardano? It's because you see a lot of crypto influencers making videos about these particular altcoins because they know that they're going to have a lot of search volume. They're going to get a lot of clicks, they're going to get a lot of views, and in turn, they're going to end up making a lot more money, which is why they talk about these specific altcoins. It's not that they think they're going to make more money from the altcoins themselves. They're actually going to make more money off of you, and this is one of the ways that you are being scammed by holding a lot of these tokens like XRP and Cardano, a lot of these overhyped altcoins. I'm going to prove my point again in a moment. But just so we can be very clear, this is the main reason why you see influencers talk about XRP and Cardano and certain other altcoins more than they do others. Because they know they're going to get a lot of views, in turn they're going to make a lot more money. At the end of the day, it's all about money. That's all it's about. Now, another main key why I don't invest in altcoins like Cardano or XRP or other altcoins that are like these tokens is because I only like investing in things that haven't had a hype cycle yet. But what do I mean by that? A lot of these tokens have been out for a long time and they've already experienced their euphoric rises in previous market cycles. I want something that doesn't have a price ceiling yet. I want tokens that are not diluted, obviously, right? The reason why it's harder to make new all-time highs in a lot of these tokens is because they're dealing with a lot more tokens being on the market, circulating on the market. So it's harder to reach these prior all-time highs in terms of price and when you're talking about market cap as well, right? Now, to prove my point a little further, I want to show you a few of the tokens that y'all probably never heard of before, but these are tokens that came out in the early 2010s. These are some of the earliest cryptos that were adopted in the space. In 2013, it had a euphoric rise in 2014. This is Namecoin, and it got over $100 million in market cap twice in the last two previous cycles. You can see how this looks extremely similar so far to something like Litecoin and something like XRP, where they're barely able to breach their prior all-time highs, mostly because they're dealing with more inflation as far as the token being minted and being put into circulation. Fully diluted, it's only sitting at $23 million market cap. Currently, it only has about $4.7 thousand in trading volume, and the chart is completely flatlined. The FDV doesn't even matter at this point because the actual market cap itself is completely flatlined. Aurora Coin is another one. Look, came out in 2014. And mind you, these are like top 10 tokens for their time, right? So these are stuff that people believed in and want to hold long term. Look, over $1 billion in market cap dropped all the way down to $500,000 in market cap. Completely flatlined. Considering that RippleNet and RLUSD have the strongest use case, right? What is the actual purpose of XRP at this point? It was supposed to be the intermediary to transact value across banks globally. Like, why do you need that now when you have RLUSDs? Still, nobody from the XRP community can answer that question for me. Another token, Coin. This is also one of those tokens that was highly regarded at the time, right? Had its first peak in 2014. The cycle after that had its second peak, and it's kind of withered away since then. And you're starting to see a very familiar pattern with all of these tokens. You have to understand that there's just better tech out there now. Nobody cares to use these tokens anymore because there's better technologies. There's faster chains, cheaper chains out there as well, and are just more scalable. Litecoin's chart, to add on to my example as well, had a peak in 2017, barely eclipsed its prior all-time high, high in 2021 and now is just withering away on the side. Now, I know we haven't reached a full-blown altcoin season yet, or the top of the market cycle currently, so we don't know exactly where all these tokens are going to end up. If you've learned anything from the past, right, especially Namecoin, you can see it tried to peak up here in 2021 and get a little pump back up to prior to highs, but it just couldn't do it, right? Same thing with Peercoin. These charts, when you put them side by side, look almost identical, right? They look almost identical. And when you put coins like Litecoin beside XRP and Cardano, they also almost look identical. Now, you have to also understand that this isn't just smoke. This is real blockchain data that I'm observing and why I feel this way. When you look at some of the top chains that I'm a fan of, you look at Base Chain with 549 protocols built on the chain. Arbitrum, 814 protocols built on the chain. Ethereum, that's been out for a long time, obviously, has almost 1,400 protocols being built on the chain. And when you go down to something like Cardano, for example, 49 protocols built on the chain, so no one's really building on the chain. Active addresses, 20.7K in active addresses. When you go up to some of the bigger chains, you can see Base Chain has 1.4 million in active addresses. You can see Arbitrum has over 275,000, which isn't that great either. But you can see who's actually using these chains. Even when you go over to revenue, right? 24-hour revenue. You can see Ethereum over 1 million. You can see Solana over 5 million. You can see Base over 400,000, right? You go down to Cardano and you have a measly 7.6K in 24-hour revenue. So who's actually using this chain? Even when you look at DEX volume, you want to argue DEX volume, okay, $1.8 million in DEX volume. You go back over to something like Base, right? One of the chains that I love the most, $767 million in 24-hour DEX volume. These other chains are breaching $1 billion. And the only reason, in my opinion, why Arbitrum and Base aren't higher up on this list is because BSC chains, Solana, and Ethereum have just simply been around for longer. So they're able to garner more market share. XRP and Cardano have been around for so long. Why don't they have anything comparable to all of this other market share that all these other chains and networks are able to garner, right? And this is why these tokens on the surface look beautiful, right? But going back to my earlier point, most of it is hype, community, and all these influencers talking about it. When you dig into the actual nooks and crannies of these tokens, like the cracks and the crevices, as they say, it explains why you shouldn't really be holding your money or expecting much from these tokens. The biggest use case for something like XRP, if you really want to know, is the fact that they use and sell the XRP to fund their political interests and to also fund the operations of RippleNet. And you can go and fact check me that. That is an absolute 100% fact. So they're actually taking your hard-earned money for XRP. They're taking your real dollars and they're going and spending it in the real world, and they're spending it on their new stablecoin and RippleNet, because that's where they know the real money is. So you have to be very careful that you don't get caught in these scams, because newer investors hear about these tokens all over the internet and it seems like it's something that they should be investing in, when in reality we know why all these people are talking about these tokens, and we know that most of it is just community and hype. Now, I will argue that Cardano is the most decentralized network that we have in crypto. That is a fact, but it doesn't really matter if you don't have users. None of this matters. You can have the best tech on the planet. Does it really matter when you don't have users? I don't really think it matters at the end of the day if you don't have anyone using it. But regardless of that fact, I want to just take a second to say thank you guys so much. Leave your comments down below, good or bad, angry or happy, thanking me for talking about it or being mad at me for telling you the truth. Whatever it is, leave it in the comment section down below. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next one.